The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. I hope your day has been as absolutely glorious as we have here. Yes, we're in our first month of winter, which I hate, but I have the sun streaming into my studio. I've been for a walk with a little honey and I'm in short sleeves, so I'm a happy camper. I hope you've all had a great time making the projects from our last webinar. And by the way, I would love to see photos. One photo was posted on my Facebook page of Tawoon Bay Good Morning Glories, and it was absolutely fabulous. So please forgive me if I forget the name of the lady who I was tagged in on, but go to my Facebook, which is Jenny.Gray-Haskins, and see the fabulous job she did. Could you also, if you're on the webinar, send that to me as an attachment, because we would love to feature these pictures on our webinars and have a bring and brag page so that others can see what you've done and get inspired. So here's Si to say hello. Who's all rugged up for winter? Oh, he's going downstairs to his phone. You know, as luck would have it, today is my cleaner's day, and Korea is playing. I don't know who they're playing in the World Cup, so they're very excited, and they have the TV on downstairs to see the World Cup soccer. I know that Americans don't follow soccer that much, but we love soccer in Australia. So they have that on, as well as the vacuum cleaner, so I have locked myself away. So I'm really excited about the things that we have to show you. And I love this saying, the only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. And you know, even as you're getting older, you can change. You can grow. The only difference between the living and the dead is that the living continue to grow. And I have to share with you and encourage you to exercise. You know the old adage, use it or lose it? And I am so excited with what I'm doing at the gym and my yoga, because I seem to plateau and then all of a sudden I jump to the next level. So you'll have to bear with me because I've just jumped to the next level and I'm so excited. And the endorphins that are released through exercise, any sort of exercise, are just amazing and totally addictive, and addictive in a really good way. So, Si, before I start, do you want to say hello to everybody?
Hi, I hope you enjoyed the webinar.
Oh, well, what have you been doing? How are you?
Apart from being cold, I'm all right.
He's looking really hot, ladies. He's here dressed up to the nines, and he looks fantastic. And it is just great to see him coming back to his old self. Do you want to talk about the coupon, Si?
Okay.
Not sure. Yes, go.
For this webinar, we have a special coupon to say thank you for attending the webinar. Just a minute, it's saying, that's right, I'll look at that in a second. We have a coupon to use on the website, which is WEBJUNE, WebJune, so you might want to write that down, and you will receive 10% off your purchase at jennyhaskins.com. That's off everything. So if you like the two projects that we are presenting today, they're both available as a download from the website. You can just go to jennyhaskins.com and they're there on the front page. At the end of the webinar, we will be talking about the Jenny Haskins Back to Basics Bootcamp, and you'll be able to use that as well. So it's a really huge discount on top of what you're already getting. So I think if you signed up for the, if you decide to sign up for the Back to Basics before the 30th of June, you'll get another $45 off back to basics. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that if you're interested in the program. But I'm going to let you go back to Jenny because I know you want to hear about the two fantastic projects that we're talking about today.
Oh, one other little bit of housekeeping I want to say. I know some of you, and we have too, are still getting emails from supposedly me. If you check the email address that it comes from, it is not me. They are fraudulent. We can do nothing about it. All we suggest is that you delete it and block it from your emails. One other thing, I want to say that the project downloads have been very successful. Please make sure that you put your correct email address in when you are doing the download, because whatever email address you put in is where your confirmation email, so you can download what you've selected, goes to. So I know there's been a little bit of confusion and a few people have put the wrong email address in, etc. So could you please just write down where, if you have 2 or 3 emails, the email address that you have used for the download, so your confirmation email will go to the correct place, and also make sure that you have put the correct email down if you've only got the one email, because the confirmation email will go to the email address that you type in. Am I correct on that, Simon?
Yes,
Simon?
so the download, yes, I'm here. The downloads are an automated system. So once you purchase and once your funds have cleared through PayPal, you will then receive an automatic email that contains the download link to download the files. The link is in the middle of the page. It will say, for example, coolmachinedisguise.zip, so coolmachinedisguise.zip. You click on that, it will open up in whichever is your default web browser, and it will say download file. You'll download the file, then you'll unzip it, and there'll be probably like 15 subfolders. The subfolders have all the different formats for all the different designs. And then there'll be 2 or 3 PDF files that contain the instructions for whatever project it is, and there'll be a file that will have the information about the embroidery design. I had a very heated discussion with someone who was very cranky with me because the designs didn't come up with the correct number of thread colors. And I tried to explain that there was a PDF file that came with the download that had all that information. And in the end, I think that person discovered the file, but they never got back to me, so who knows. But that file there has the thread stops and tells you the thread colors to use for each part of the design. So as with anything that you buy, and I'm guilty of this as well, it always helps to open up all the files that you get and to read through everything, because we try to include everything that you'll need for each particular project. It's nigh on impossible to save the Jenny Haskins thread colors in every single format that exists on the planet. That's why we include that file that has the thread stops with the Jenny Haskins thread. So it really is completely foolproof. But if you don't receive your confirmation email with your download link, please drop me an email, simon@jennyhaskins.com, and I endeavour to rectify the situation as soon as possible. But as Jenny said, we've discovered that most issues have happened because people don't type their email address into our system correctly. And if you haven't put your email address in correctly, there's no way that my system knows how to send you the files to your correct email address. As much and all as we would like the internet to be a mind reader and an email address spell checker, unfortunately the technology doesn't exist just yet. So it's up to you to use your grey matter and to type your address into the purchase correctly, and then you should receive your download. Now, you may have the correct email address for your PayPal account, but that doesn't translate to the correct email address you type into your order. That email address you type into your order is what I receive at my end. That will send you the email with the download link. So if that's the case, yeah, it's kind of up to you to make sure you type that in correctly.
Thank you, Simon. And two things Simon didn't mention then is that, number one, sewers don't read, and number two, he hasn't learnt to know what I say when I've said it in my head and it hasn't come out of my mouth. So you've had plenty of time to look at the lovely sewing machine cover, and a couple of people have already emailed me and said, will it fit my machine? Well, the beauty about this is that it will fit any size machine. So, and it is really, really easy. So this is, we had so much fun, Robbie and I, doing this particular cover, and it looks so gorgeous in the studio. Someone said on Facebook, I said, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful, I couldn't ever take it off. Okay, before you start, all you have to do is measure your machine. Now you measure from the bottom right over the top and down at the same place on the other side. I think the picture is pretty explanatory. By the way, Simon is going to endeavour to answer any machines for words that don't come out of my mouth that I've said in my head. Then measure the width of your machine. You don't have to measure right around it, just the width. You then make a paper pattern. So you can see that it doesn't matter what size your machine is, because the size of your cover is determined by going the vertical up and down both sides of your machine from front to back, and the horizontal width of your machine. So then you make a paper pattern of that you have. You make a paper pattern. So we'll deal with that in a minute. This is just showing you some cool pictures of the techniques. Now Simon's got materials sitting there, and I'm not sure why I haven't come up with the materials list. Okay, here we go. We're good now. Now I have make the paper pattern, the width, horizontal measurements, and the length, which is the vertical measurement from the front to back of your machine cover, not including the frill. The frill is extra. Mark a 2-inch border on each side of the pattern. Now you can make the border wider if you choose not to have as much fabric and quilting in the middle. The center of the pattern will now be the area that needs to be quilted and pieced in your desired method. So this is the center of our pattern, and this is from the front to the back of our machine, and this is the width, horizontal width of our machine, and this is our 2-inch border. So while you have this on screen, I will mention this further on, but I would suggest there's 2 ways you can do it. You can do it all in one fabric. You could strip piece fabrics that you have in your stash. I mean, the beauty about this is the colors. Color makes or breaks anything. So you can strip piece fabrics before you do your quilting, or you could do different size quilted squares and join them with the Jenny join. But this fabric, we cheated, I have to tell you, it's already done in patchwork. But the whole idea is that you use your scrap fabric. Okay, you've got to select the quilting in the hoop design that best suits the largest hoop size available for your machine. We actually used a, oh Simon, what's the size? 200 by 300, 400? Simon?
The hoop, yeah, I'm here. Hoop
Yep.
that you used was the large hoop for the Quattro, which is 200 by 300. So that's approximately 12 inches by 8 inches. With the download, we have 3 sizes of designs to fit a mega hoop like that, so 200 by 300, the square hoop, which is 200 by 200 or 8 inches by 8 inches, or a smaller hoop, which is 4 inches by 8 inches. So you can, just because you don't have a really big hoop, doesn't mean that you can't make the project. All it means is that instead of having 3 sections that you're putting together with the Jenny join, you might have more sections. But as you could see from the fabric that we used, which was a faux patchwork fabric, putting it together in smaller pieces is not going to detract from the beauty of the project. If anything, it would enhance it because you'd have more beautiful decorative stitching.
Yes, I totally agree with Simon, because you would just have all your different size blocks put together with the Jenny join and using lovely decorative stitches and rayon threads. Now, I have mentioned this before. What we do is we get strips of top and backing fabric and the double-sided fusible batting wide enough to be hooped in your chosen hoop across the width of your chosen fabric. Layer these 3, backing, batting, and top fabric, on an ironing board as you would layer the 3 layers of a quilt, and then fuse all 3 layers together using a hot steam iron. Iron from the front and back of these 3 layers to ensure the batting is securely fused. Now, these 3 layers of fabric should appear as one fabric. So that's the beauty of the Quilt Magic Plus. It's a double-sided fusible batting, and it's a nice lightweight one so that it's easy to hoop. Now, iron the double-sided fusible web to the back of the doily only and put to one side. Place the layered quilting fabric in your selected hoop. As you can see here, we use the large hoop. Now, when you are using fabric in a continual strip, make sure you put the long end of your fabric to the front of the hoop. Select the largest design that will fit in your hoop. We just used a plain white thread. We used white construction thread in the needle and bobbin to quilt our cover. So depending on the size of your machine and depending on the size of your hoop will depend exactly how and how many quilted pieces you're going to need to cover the center of your pattern. Now, they don't all have to exactly align up. If you're doing little squares or little rectangles or whatever, they don't have to exactly line up with the edge of the center of your pattern. Just piece them all and then cut them to the finished size of the center of your pattern. Now remember, Simon has his magic built-in stitch cutting lines so that you use the rotary cutter, quilting ruler and self-healing cutting mat to cut the pieces quilting. When all the quilting and cutting is complete, put these to one side. How am I going, Simon? Have we got a lot of questions? Am I being clear? If he's listening. Are you listening? I guess not. Okay. You can tell him on where you ask questions if I'm covering everything. Now we're going to do the heart design that actually formed the pocket on the front of our cool machine disguise. Now this is done with my embroidered decoupage technique, and we've got a nice close-up here. So you can see, by the way, all these pictures are in the directions. It has an applique center, section in the center, and we chose to use a little piece of lace. So you sandwich nylon organza between 2 layers of dissolved magic to embroider the heart pocket using the pink and green rayon threads. Now, if I have told you the threads that I've used, and you can see the colours here, if you select the threads that best match mine, doesn't matter what sequence you use them in. And by the way, if you choose to have green roses and pink leaves, that's okay also. While the embroidery is still in the hoop, place the hoop over a glass cutting board or tile and then use the magic heat cutting tool to heat cut out the heart by tracing around the outside edge of the flowers close to and following the edge of the flowers. Also embroider and heat cut out 2 butterflies using white rayon thread. Follow the steps 8 and 9. Following the directions that come with dissolved magic, you wash the stabilizer from the embroidery. Rinse in cold water until it is not sticky anymore and lay flat to dry. Now, there was something that popped up in my head just then and it's totally gone. So maybe it will pop back in again. I'm focusing on about 3 things at present. Okay, now I know what I was going to say. If you are new to this and you want to see an actual in motion Jenny join that I'm coming up or any of these techniques, go to our website, go to the videos and you will see the Jenny join in I Feel Pretty, a little French chic, I Need a Little Christmas. So you will see all these techniques on video. So just remember, if you need a little bit of a prompt or you're new, you will see these there. Okay, but your raw fabric edges, doesn't matter how many you have, of the cut to finish size quilting pieces up together and secure with pins that are vertical. Where's my little arrow? There we go, to the horizontal cut seam. And the beauty about when you have quilted your fabric and you have cut out to finish size, when you get better at this, you will find that if your edges up here, I'll give you a little tip in a minute, the edges up here are meeting and you are experienced at this, you will find you don't need to pin near as often. My little tip when you're doing this with decorative stitches as well as the zigzag, so that because, here we go, because you're so close, you've got to start right there. I always start here with my zigzag, so in about ½ an inch, stitch to the edge of my fabric using a reverse, take the reverse button off and, oh, I've lost my arrow, and then stitch all the way down here and tie off. If you are doing a decorative stitch, I would start in, say, about an inch, do my decorative stitch, turn my piece around and start again. Remember to use pattern start and stitch to the end that way off the fabric. It prevents any bulking up or your fabric puckering at the beginning of a stitch row. Of course, you can always use a jack at the back of your foot, but I find that technique by far the easiest to do. So you can see here I've used the open toe foot construction thread in the needle and thread to zigzag centered. Your foot is centered over the seam line, and yes, I stitch over the pins. And if the worst that can happen is you break a needle, and I've got to be honest, that hasn't happened. Maybe once. Okay, wind a bobbin with the rayon thread that matches the needle thread that you are going to sew your decorative stitch with, such as a satin stitch open ball that you can see there, and center your foot over the zigzag and stitch this over the zigzag stitches, and that nicely covers your zigzagging. Now, again, this is up to you. Robbie and I used the widest hoop we had, or the longest hoop we had rather, and so therefore we worked to that I think Simon said 12-inch width. And then we just did our border strips, the additional 2 inches on each side, so that was 4 inches. And we just cut up strips of fabric that we had lying around. Again, if you chose to do quilting in the hoop and then cut them to the size that you needed, you could do that. You could strip piece your fabric and then cross-cut it, and you could have patchwork down the sides. It's just up to you. The idea is for you to match up your beautiful fabrics that really maybe you don't have, they're not very big pieces, and you then color coordinate them to make this really cool machine disguise. So you attach our borders. Now what we've done with our borders, we have batting on the back of our fabric, and then we have backing fabric, etc. So what I would do is I would fuse my batting to a large piece of fabric, fuse the backing fabric to it, and then cut out my border strips, however you choose to do it. So once you put your border strips on, you lay your edging fabric, edging lace rather, and optional fine piping. Now I need to show you here. Here is the fine piping, and here's our edging lace, and we've got our borders on using the Jenny join, and you can see here we use the nice green satin stitch ball for our cover stitch. So you would put, where's my arrow, the raw edge of your lace, or the straight edge of your lace, along the bottom cut edge and the back, the front and back of your cover. And it's the right side of your cover with the wrong side of the lace over the right side of your cover. And then on top of that, you would lay your fine piping so that the raw fabric edge is aligned, well, parallel. It may not reach the edge of your fabric depending on the piping. Now this is purely optional. You could also fold a piece of ribbon in half and use that as a little piping along the edge. You could just stitch a piece of ribbon in there if you wanted to. What else can I suggest you put in there? As I said, you could fold a piece of fabric on the bias and cut it and just have it inserted in there. Just use your imagination as to what you would like to put in there as an added feature. Okay, now we come to the frill. Now, I think somewhere I said it's 2.5 times the width of your cover. So it's 2.5 times whatever your pattern width of your cover is. So you hem the sides of your frill, and we just did, you can do anything on the bottom, you can hem it, or we just did a little rolled zigzag hem, or you can do it on your serger. So when you place the frill, I'll just go back, we're just showing you this gathered. This is the right side of our frill. So the right side of the frill, you would flip that over. The right side of your frill goes over the right side of your fabric, and the raw fabric edge is aligned with the raw fabric edge on your cover. And we're doing this on both sides. Once you have stitched it, you flip it down. This is the wrong side, by the way. We've flipped the frill to the right side, and whoops, then we pressed it flat, the seam up flat. Where am I here? Come here. Lost my arrow. It's being very difficult for me. And we pressed it down flat. And you can also stitch it from the right side should you need to. Now, what you need to do is place your cover, your completed cover except the each side edge, over your machine, and I'm saying that the ribbon tie should sit about 3 inches below the flywheel. So mark this where your ribbon's going to sit on your cover, where your ribbon is going to sit on your cover, and it should match on all 4 edges. So you'll have 2 on one side and 2 on the other. Simon's just given me a breather here, I think. Okay, whenever you find yourself doubting how far you can go, just remember how far you have come. Remember everything you have faced, all the battles you have won, and all the fears you have overcome. That's a nice little thing to put up in your sewing studio. Okay. Now I have dealt with this, telling you how to line up the ribbon for the sides of your cool machine cover. Cut the ribbon into 4 equal lengths. Now you lay the right side of the ribbon over the mark position on the right side of the cover, raw fabric edge of ribbon to raw fabric edge of cover, and I would just stitch them in place, or if you want to, you can glue them close to the edges of your ribbon cover. So you can see this here. If your ribbon has only one side, if it isn't a double-sided satin, then this would be the rough side of your ribbon. Attach the bias tape to each side of the center panel, attaching the ribbon to the seam right side of the bias to the right side of the cover. Turn the bias to the wrong side of the cover and press the fold. Either glue or stitch the bias to the wrong side and make sure you press your ribbon over the bias. Now we're up to our little decorative bit. You can see how lovely here, if I go down, how lovely and flat how it will look. Remove the paper backing from the back of the circular doily and then center it on the front of the cover. You can see here, and if you have an edge doily, make sure your top and bottom edges line up as best as possible. With crochet doilies, they're never exactly perfect. Use a hot steam iron to fuse the doily flat to the center of the front cover. Use the open-toed foot pre-round bobbin, invise a thread in the needle and a narrow zigzag stitch to secure the doily to the cover by stitching around and following the outside edge. Now you get to center the embroidered heart over the circular doily. The heart will be used as a storage pocket, and as such will only be stitched down each side of the heart point. So I'm just going to point this out to you. You're just going to stitch from there, zoom up to about.
Before Jenny keeps going, I just thought this is a really good visual of this design, and I think it's a really cool way of showing you how you can extend an embroidery design, and all you've done is put a doily underneath. How amazing does that look? You've added this lace edge to your embroidery, and it's taking you, what, 10 seconds to apply, because it just goes behind and it just makes that design really pop off the fabric. And you can get very, very inexpensive doilies from practically anywhere. It wouldn't have to be a crocheted one. You could use a Battenberg lace one. You could use whatever you want, and it just makes that design pop. I think that is just so cool.
Goodness me, Simon. I'm surprised that you were even looking at it that much. While I've got you there, am I covering this all right? Are there heaps of questions? Have I missed anything?
No, it's all good.
Okay. I'm getting better at this, guys. So we are going to stitch this up and around to about here on each side. But if we were to stitch that absolutely flat, how would we get anything in it? So I endeavoured to take this picture. You can see if you put your hand inside the doily, inside the pocket, so if you pin it and put your hand, center the doily and put your hand in it, make sure before you stitch it or glue it, put your hand, I'm doing this manually here, so of course you can't see it. So I slipped my hand inside here before I did my stitching or glued it in place, okay? So you have to be able to slip your hand in there. So then you can see that I've left the top open, and you can just pin down here if you choose, or just put a tiny bit of glue, remember it's a pocket, to secure that in place, but make sure it's not sitting flat, that you actually have room to put things in the pocket. Now, those of you who know me would know that there's no such thing as too much glitz. So if you want to take it a little further, I always think on the cross hatches of any lattice, a little crystal looks great to finish it off. So you can see that the heart is now a pocket to use to store your sewing essentials for easy access. And again, should you choose, this can be now converted when you're using your machine. You can tie it onto the back of your sewing chair, and then you have all your things handy just at the back of your chair. Or you could lay it on the side of your sewing machine and you have all your sewing essentials there. So, or you can make two, one that you can tie onto the back of your chair, one that you can attach on the side of your sewing desk. There's lots of ideas that you can do this with. Now we only have to add our butterflies. So use the photo as a guide to position your butterflies. Glue them in place only down the body, just down the body so the wings are freestanding. And then just stitch them in place using Invisit shear thread. All that's left to do now is to place the cool machine design cover over the machine so the ribbon ties a line on each side of the cover of the machine. Secure the cover in place with a pretty bow. So you can see how easy this was. Actually, this is truly the coolest, easiest machine design cover that I have ever come across. And not only that, it adds a little bit of glamour to your sewing studio. It teaches you heaps of techniques, and I hope you enjoy making it as much as we did. And it doesn't take a lot of time. You could easily complete this in a day, and if you have two machines, of course you can get your quilting done and be piecing that while your embroidery is being done in the hoop. And of course we can multitask. So I hope you enjoy making this as much as we did, and please send photos. We want to start showing people what you have done. Okay.
So before you get to this, wait. Before you get to this quote, people have asked if you could go back to the previous one because they wanted to write it down.
Oh, the previous one. Okay, guys, I'm backing up. He tells me now that he wants the previous one. Okay, there we go. Whenever you find yourself doubting how far you can go, just remember how far you have come. Remember everything you have faced, all the battles you have won, and all the fears you have overcome. And you get free, my little puppy barking in the background. So, Simon, tell me when we can move off that slide. Stop it. Stop the noise. No. No.
If people haven't been able to write it down, don't forget that we are recording the webinar, and you'll be able to go and watch the recording again, and you could pause it on this slide and write it down. But I know we've still got another whole project to go, and the webinar only goes for an hour.
Okay. So if you have your pencils out, get ready to write this one smaller. Affirm. And of course, I'm into yoga. I love my yoga. If you only decide to do one exercise, and I thank Simon every time, because how long did you nag me, Si?
A long time.
Hello? a long time that I would do yoga, and I absolutely adore it. It not only is it an exercise, it is totally a mind, body, and spirit experience. And no matter how hard a day you've had, no matter what has happened, and I have to say last year I did keep my yoga going all year, and if I had not done that, I don't know how I would have coped with the year. And when you are doing yoga, it truly is spiritual, because you can't think of anything else. Trust me, you're so focused on getting the pose right. It is just wonderful. Okay, I will do something today that my future self will thank me for. And this future self thanks me for doing the yoga and for Simon nagging me. Okay, this is just to remind you to use your coupon. Write it down again, Web June. Now, those of you who know me well know that purple is my favorite color, and as Frankie, Simon's beautiful little daughter, always says, we say, what's your favorite color, Frankie? And she says, purple, purple. She just adores purple, as I do too. So this is one side of the quilt, and it's called Double the Love, because, oh, I'm sorry about that. I have no idea what is wrong with my puppy, so I'm just going to shut her, stop outside the door. Okay, she can bark for Si now. We must have someone in the yard. That's what she's barking at. Okay, it's called Double the Love, and I think this is a very good quote to go with it. Get your pencils out because it's not coming up on screen. The more I share myself, the more there is to love. Okay, so here on screen you will be able to see that we have white squares that are quilted and embroidered on one side. Yeah.
Someone has made a suggestion with regards to the motivational quotes that we have during the webinar. They've asked if you could post them onto the Jenny Haskins Design Facebook page, and I think that's a fantastic idea. So if people are looking for the quote, we will post them up on the Jenny Haskins Design Facebook page, and you can have a look at them there. I think that was, someone said that, but someone also suggested you can use your cell phone and take a photo of the screen. That
oh, how smart was that?
Yeah, if you can't write very fast, take a photo with your cell phone and then you can copy it down. Otherwise, we'll put them up on the Jenny Haskins Design Facebook page.
That was a very smart thing, to take pictures. You know, when I go out shopping now and I'm looking for stuff, I take pictures of everything. I take pictures if I want to know the dimensions of something. I take pictures if I want to know the price. I take a picture if I see a nice design. I take a picture of a dress or a jacket. So remember, these phones are just magic to do that. Mine is cracked and broken at present, so I have to go back to Apple and get a new one because I live by this phone, as I think most people do. So we can see here that our sashing is purple with little striped cornerstones, and the borders are striped with purple cornerstones. Now that's one side, and that's the other side. So you do not have to do it double-sided if you don't wish to, but it is so fun to be able to do it double-sided. So I'm going to, I don't know, I haven't got the time. Yes, I have. Okay, I've got to be quick. So I'm going to tell you what we basically did so that you are looking while you're looking at the drop shot. So I'll go back one. Oh, okay. basically what Robbie and I did, because if there's an easy way to do it, we'll find it. I just said a few things in my head and it didn't come out of my mouth, sorry. Okay, so for the borders and for the cornerstones and the sashing, we cut, and you do get it in your directions, how much to cut for this. We didn't cut each individual one at this time. We cut a large piece of fabric in purple and a large piece of fabric that is in the striped fabric, and we put batting in between, and we had striped fabric on one side and purple fabric on the other. So all we had to do when we were doing our borders and sashing was, now I'll flip through, was flip the fabric over. So our cornerstones would all be the same size, the large ones and the small ones. All the sashing, narrow sashing and borders would be the same size, and the wider borders will be the same size. So you can see here that the fabric has just been turned over. We also cut out our squares of fabric so that we had 4 squares in the purple, 4 squares in the cream. Now remember, you are going to need extra fabric for applique. The beauty, I'll go back this one. The beauty of this is the applique. So far you've learned our trick of how to do quilting really easy, and have it all done before you put your work together using the Jenny join. Okay, we've also done layered applique, which is fun, fun, fun. And I don't think we have used all the colour stops that we had the option for in these pansies. I think we just used 2 colour stops and the green here. The other thing that you have is 2 different appliques. So we had a different coloured applique in the centre to the outside edge, and also you did buttonholes in the hoop. Simon?
Sorry, what was the question?
Yes?
What was the question?
Did you? No, I didn't ask a question. I thought you were trying to ask me one.
Oh,
Am
no,
I good?
I will say something. I absolutely love showing this project in trunk shows because it looks absolutely stunning on the one side, and it's beautiful, and it's this lovely silks and velvets and all this kind of stuff. And then you kind of do the little bit of the drum roll and you flip it around, and people see that it's completely reversible, and it absolutely blows their mind away that you have 2 quilts in one, and that it's all quilted and it's all beautiful and it's all absolutely amazing. So I want everyone to really grapple their mind that this isn't 2 quilts, it's the 1 quilt and it's 2 sides. So this is one side and this is the other side. And what's so fabulous about it is one side is the inverse of the other. So wherever you've got white on the back, you have purple. Where you have the purple, then you have the stripe. It's just so absolutely phenomenal, and people's jaws drop to the ground when they see that it's not just a beautiful quilt, but it's completely reversible. So I'm going to say it again. You're not looking at 2 quilts here. You're looking at 1 quilt. This is side 1, and this is side 2. I reckon you should all be standing on your feet, clapping and cheering, because it's just amazing.
He never says this to Robin and I when we do it, by the way. It is a really beautiful quilt. And the other thing is you don't have to have the exact reverse colours. You could do one on one side that is for your spring decoration, and you could do one on the other side that is your autumn decoration. That is also fine. So there's many, many things that you can do with this quilt. Now, the other thing that, as I said, it teaches you double applique, and this is layered applique. It also does buttonholes in the hoop. And while I have you all, hopefully your attention, before you put the two sides of the quilt together, you must, and put the batting on the back of your blocks, you must cut your buttonholes. And so you cut those, but before you cut them, here's a handy hint. We always put a little bit of fray stop on the end of a pin and run it down the center of our buttonholes. Now, let it dry before you cut the buttonholes, and this ensures that your buttonholes never fray. And if by accident you cut one of the stitches, it won't come loose. Remember, the other little tip is, when you thread your ribbon through, remember where you start and finish, that's where your bow will be. Now that was particularly, it can be anywhere. Robin and I chose to, I think we must have glued those ones on, or brought the thread down and tied it. But if you wanted a bow on the side, you'd start and finish here. If you wanted a bow here, start and finish there. If you wanted a bow there, start and finish your ribbons there. So that's the one thing I want to emphasize. Make sure once your embroidery is done, and before you put the batting on, cut your buttonholes, thread your ribbon through, and do your bows. Remember to iron it's Sheer Magic, the heavier weight, to the back, not Sheer Magic Plus, Sheer Magic to the back of all your silk pieces to be embroidered. You can add Sheer Magic Plus if you wish. Sheer Magic Plus, sorry, I'm getting confused. Sheer Magic Plus to the back of the squares that are going to be embroidered, and just Sheer Magic to the back of the silk pieces, because they're not going to be embroidered. So mark your blocks with vertical and horizontal lines that intersect in the center of the quilt block. I would also mark the diagonal ones. And your blocks are cut larger, of course, than the finished size, because they're going to be trimmed to finished size. So this is just cutting out all the strips that I have told you to do, and you can see that I've explained that you're cutting out for your borders and sashing and cornerstones, large pieces of fabric that you will cut later. So we've marked our 8 blocks, and then you've got to embroider the hearts, and they have to be exactly centered on the straight. So whichever is your preferred method, I would use the self-adhesive tearaway in the hoop. Exactly center your fabric over the hoop, once the hoop, and if you haven't used this before, you hoop your, Hoop Magic with the shiny side up. Then you remove, that's the protective paper, score around the outside edge and a triangle, and then remove this, the protective paping from the tearaway. Place your hoop in the machine. Call your design up on screen, and however your machine is, make sure the design is centered in the screen and that the needle is centered in the design. Then you place your hoop in the machine, place your fabric over the self-adhesive tearaway, making sure that the vertical and horizontal lines on your fabric square exactly match the marks on your hoop, and use your basting or stay stitch to secure your fabric to the stabilizer before you start embroidering. So here are the designs. Now remember, the designs that you use, when you use those designs that you're going to use on the back of the blocks, what have they got to be? Mirror reversed. Okay, from, we want, for the back of this, we will want this flower on the other side, so that you will have this flower and the back flower will exactly match. So if I was to, I'm doing this with my hand, you can't see it. So this goes at the back of that. So you can see these flowers, when I flip that fabric over, use your mind's eye, will sit exactly at the back of these flowers. Okay? So you can see the same here. Again, we're going to flip this one over so that these flowers will sit exactly behind these flowers. Now you don't have to match your applique inserts, as you can see we have not done here. So you have so much fun in playing. I love the fact, you can see here, I just said it in my head and didn't come out of my mouth again. You can see we've used different fabrics in the same toning. We've used white here, we've used a check here, we've used the stripe here, we've left the purple there, and if you come back here, we've actually used velvet in here, and we've used 2 different colors here. So you can see again, we've used stripe here on the diagonal, and here we've just left it plain. So we tried to give you every option there is for you to be able to play with your applique fabrics and be creative. Okay, pencils out, everybody. Oh, for iPhones. Phones out, everyone, no pencils. Happiness is a perfume you cannot pour on others without getting a few drops on yourself. And isn't that true? Absolutely true. So come on, click, click. Righto, moving on. All right, so you've embroidered your blocks. This is something I can emphasize. Make sure you're as accurate as you can be by embroidering your designs in the center of the blocks. The next design, which is on the corners of your blocks, it was a long time, corner of your quilt. I've got to go back and show you where they go. I'm going right back to the drop shot. Sorry, everybody. There we go. These are the little designs that we're going to do as embroidered decoupage. Here they are here. So these are the designs we're going to embroider now. So I'll pop through all the ones you've seen. You get to see them again. And so we're going to embroider these using Dissolve Magic with an organza sandwich between them. I've already dealt with everything on there. Once you have you've finished all your blocks, you can either iron the Quilt Magic Plus or the Quilt Magic. Quilt Magic Plus will be fine because it's double-sided between your 2 blocks. And I'm sorry, we quilted each one, then, oh, we didn't. I've got to remember, wrong sides rotate. With wrong sides, once you've done, you match up the quilt box, cream on one side and purple on the other, making sure the heart designs are mirrored, exactly match on side 1 to those on side 2. Go on, Simon. Simon? No.
No, just somebody, once you get to the end of this, and I also wanted to point your head towards that it's nearly 11 o'clock and the webinar's only supposed to go for an hour. I'm sure people won't mind that it goes over, but I know some people have touched.
All right, I'll keep going.
With regards to the sewing machine disguise,
yes,
we've said that it can fit any machine, and someone would like to know how they can modify it to fit on their Quattro machine while they still have the embroidery unit attached so that it doesn't flop down on one side. And if you can't think off the top of your head, that person who asked that question, if you could email Jenny and say you're looking for suggestions, I'm sure Mum will have more time to think about it and get to your question in more detail. But I just thought I would throw it away. Throw it out to you.
Off the top of my head,
No,
I will
don't
say
put
this.
it off the head right now because you've got to finish doing this
But
project.
everyone will want it. It's very quick. It's very quick.
Okay.
What I would just extend your pattern and you could do this right across the entire width as opposed to length. So it's going along the top of your machine. Extend your machine cover out that far, okay? You would modify your ties so that you could tie it, yes, at around the bottom. So on one side you might have to have 2 ties on one side, and extend your quilt out if you're facing it to the left and across where it folds over the top. You know boning? Does everyone know what boning is? You can buy boning, and I would just stitch boning right across the top so that it is, you could put 3 strips right across the middle and then say 1.5 inches on each side, and that would hold your cover out straight across the embroidery unit and hold it in place. And if you wanted to cover it in at the end, I'd put a bow at the bottom edge, and then I would also have a bow in the same place as you have under the flywheel. And you may want to extend it, say, 1 inch wider so that it comes around slightly at the bottom of the embroidery unit, and that would allow for you tying it at the top where the flywheel is. I hope everyone understands that. Simon, will you ask that lady, does she understand? And come back to me. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to exactly match our 2 blocks before we quilt. Exactly match our 2 blocks before we quilt. And you do that by lining up your embroideries. Now what Robbie and I did was and if we didn't, we should have, we lined up our embroidery by putting pins at the center of the hearts. I'm trying to find a picture of a heart to show you what we did. Here we go. So put a pin here. I would put a pin at the side. I would put a pin at your extremities of your leaves, at the top of these, and push that pin through, and then when you line up the other side, you match that pin. And then I would lightly glue the 2 together, and you would be able to do this by looking at the 2 stitch outlines. Now, I have a feeling what we did here is that we quilted each side and then put it together. But you don't need to quilt each side. It would be easier to line it up, your embroidery designs first.
No, I'm going to correct you there. You did not quilt each side. It was quilted through. It is a real
Oh, good
quilt.
man. Good, thank you. So that matching up your designs this way, and then you could even tack a little bit of glue there, and you could then open it a bit just to make sure they line up, and then you can leave them glued at this time and stitch around them later with Invisithread. But that's what we did. We actually stitched around the outside edge of the 2 hearts with Invisithread, and then we quilted it, cut the blocks to finished size, and you must make sure all your hearts stay centered in the blocks. So that's another way that you need to match up your pre-marked vertical and horizontal lines. You know how to do the jenny join. Once you've pieced it, done the jenny join, we then glued the little corner embroideries on both sides of the quilt on the corners. And then I'm seeing we've added a few little crystals to it. So this is your corner pieces. These are the crystals, and they matched totally. So this little quilt is an exactly double-sided quilt. Okay, this will surprise everybody. Get your phones out, and if you're not a purple fan, don't even bother. Work hard, play hard, and wear purple. So how did we go, Si? Any questions? No answer. He's busy typing. Okay, back to Basics Bootcamp. Now, when Si sent this through to me, I said, fabulous colour, great design, and there's prissy little me in the corner. No more like a boot camp person than flying to the moon. He should have had a picture of me at the end of my workout with my personal trainer, which would be more in keeping. So think of me as your personal trainer, so that you're going to have information, information or knowledge is power. If you know how to do something, you can do anything, and it gives you a choice. You can't say, I can't do that because I don't know how to do it. You can say, I choose not to do it. It's wonderful to have choices in life. So I want to go through every little creative machine embroidery idea that we have had. And if you have just got a new machine, if you've never tackled any of the techniques that I have used, because they look beautiful, which doesn't mean they have to be hard. Beautiful does not mean hard. Beautiful means you have used the correct colors and fabrics. Color makes or breaks anything. But you will learn from basic hoop embroidery to our most advanced techniques. And at the end of the time, you can ask me any question you like. We will answer all your questions. You will be provided with an absolute step-by-step photo and instruction book that will become your Bible. I think I mentioned this before. I mean, when we do these techniques, Robin and I, if we haven't done it for a while, have to go back and say, how in the hell did we do this? So having a reference, it will become your machine embroidery Bible with every single thing that you can know about embroidery. Applique, single fabric layer, padded layer, layered applique, sheer reverse applique, shadow applique, floating applique, ribbon, lace weaving insert for applique, faux knitting padded fabric for applique, embroidered decoupage plain, embroidered decoupage with applique, 3D embroidered decoupage, how to use templates, how to mark fabric, quilting in the hoop, straight quilting in the hoop, quilted fabric applique insert, quilting and piecing in the hoop, embroidered applique plus quilting around, a place in the sun technique, Simon's Applique Magic 1, Simon's Applique Magic 2, the Jennings join, whoops, trapunto and quilting in the hoop, 3D embroidery magic with crinkle magic, flowers and layering, velvet crinkle magic, applique insert, plain and crinkled, embellishments, crystals, fringe, tassels, magic seams, fabricadabra, strip piecing, machine embroidered lace, buttonholes in the hoop, antique cutwork lace. My goodness, I am out of breath mentioning all these. I'm thinking, did we do all this work? Yes, we did. It took Robin and I over 3 months to do all these projects, taking step-by-step photos, putting them into pages, and writing the directions under the pages. It will be the most invaluable reference book that you can possibly have. So even if you feel you are an advanced embroiderer, it will take into consideration all the latest products that are on the market, how you will be assured of perfect embroidery every time. The times I hear people say, oh, I'm afraid to do it. What if I mess up? Trust me, anything you've messed up, we have done it so that we have perfected something that you will not mess up in the hoop. And you will love doing it. And not only that, each technique is only done on a very small scale. If you only have the smallest size hoop on the market, you will be able to do all these techniques because we have done it in the smallest scale. You will then have a sample to put opposite the technique page that you will always have a sample done. And I emphasize that your sample is very small, so it is not going to take you hours to do. Each technique would take, I don't know, some of them would take you 5 minutes, if that. Some of them may take 10 or 15, but no longer. Everything is on a very small scale, but you learn every section of the technique. How'd I go, Si? Simon? He's disappeared on me. Remember, you can use the coupon WebJune,
June, W-E-B-J-U-N-E.
I know. I have totally run out of spit, so would you like to finish everything off, please?
It sounds from the comments that I've been frantically trying to respond to that absolutely everybody has loved the webinar. They've both enjoyed both projects. There's been a few questions with regards to how to access the instructions for the project. We've just started now having downloadable embroidery collections from our website, Jenny Haskins. Both of these projects are available for purchase from the website. They're only $20 each. And if you use this coupon, WebJune, you'll receive an additional 10% off. The downloadable projects include all of the embroidery designs. So for Double the Love, I believe it's 18 designs. For the Cool Machine Disguise, I believe it has 9 designs. So if you go to the website and you click on the project, it has all the information on the number of designs, the hoop size needed, the formats included, the file size, etc., etc. So you click and purchase and you'll be able to get everything pretty much immediately. People have loved all the tips and everything, so thank you very much for everything. And we will see you again next month. I don't know, are there any more slides to go?
I think that's it, Si. I don't know, we don't have another quote.
So if you would like to watch the webinar again, we are repeating it again tomorrow, and you can sign up for that. Alternatively, we'll have the recording of the webinar up on the website, and you can watch that again. But we're doing the exact same webinar tomorrow at the exact same time. So if you want to come and watch again, you're very welcome to, but it is exactly the same program. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys for joining me. I feel this is a way that I can keep in contact with you. I have to tell you that it re-inspires me when I go over the projects. And I'll let you into a little tip. I am working on something here that Simon has nagged me about, and that will be one of our new design CDs, I think. And it will also be a fun way for you primarily to use your machines to actually sit and sew. Yes, it does have embroidery on it, but it allows you to explore the creativity of the gorgeous stitches on your machines. So thank you all so much for attending.
Before everyone goes, I'm going to recruit everyone in the webinar to start spamming.
Go away, go away.
Is Jenny at jennyhaskins.com. I've been on her case to do another colour purple quilt. So there was the original colour purple, then we had colour purple the next generation, and then we had beyond colour purple. I've been on her case to have a return to the colour purple quilt. If you would like to see that, start sending Jenny an email every day until it happens, and then it will happen. She's been promising me this for 2 years now, and I'm getting fed up. So if you want it to happen, you need to start hassling her to make it happen. So start emailing her every day and say, where is Return to the Colour Purple? And maybe
just maybe you'll get it.
Right. I will deal with him later. There are things that I also ask of him that have not been terribly forthcoming. But on a better note, I have what I have up in my studio. So get your pencils out. It's nowhere, and I have said nowhere for you to see, and I might put it up on my website, on my Facebook page, but I live with this. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. And this is from the great Aristotle. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. On that note, goodbye from me, and goodbye from
Bye.
Bye.